So when you get your pre-cut ultra thin, one of the first things you can do is simply go on the outside of the airplane and fit it over and see how it looks. As with this one, it should look maybe about a 1/4 inch bigger all the way around on all the dimensions. If it's too big, trim it. If it's too small, call us. Okay, so next step is to take your ultra thin, and the best way to do an ultra thin is to tuck it between the trim of the aircraft, like so, behind the trim, and in front of the window. Now, this is going to take a little bit, but I will tell you, the ultra thins, you can really, move them around, twist them, and they're not going to break. You're not going to tear them as you do it. Look, I can fold this thing just like that, and it's going to be fine. So the ultra thins, I'm not worried about. It can take the twisting and manipulating around, trying to get it in to it that's just right. Now, if you're having trouble getting the ultra thin in, of course, the next step is just take it out and trim it a little bit. Here, there's something behind the trim that's catching it as I go to put it in. So I'm just going to pull it out and trim it a little bit. All right, so I've trimmed this one a little bit, and I'm going to be seeing how I put it in. And each plane is going to be a little different, so just make sure you tuck it behind the trim. Make sure it's a clear path back there. There's some rubber behind this trim, so I got to make sure I get it behind the trim, but in front of the window gasket. Same thing here. And here we go. I can bend this up, and I know I can manipulate it, and it's going to go nicely. However, if I want to show you something else, if you can't get it to tuck in there, and not so nicely, you have another option. So your first choice is to tuck it behind the trim, push it up against the window, put our knobs on it, you're done. If it's too tight, if it doesn't look good, or you don't like the way that's going in and out, there's another method, and I'm going to show you that right now. In the next method, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it so the ultra thin sits inside this frame right here, and then we're going to put some rubber trim around it, like a gasket, and then we're just going to keep it, instead of tucking it behind it, we're going to set it into the window with the use of some rubber seal gasket material. So the first step, again, is to kind of look where it is, mark it, and cut it the same exact size as the window. Okay, so now we've trimmed it and we put our trim on, and we're going to stick it into the window, and you want this to be kind of snug in there. So what we're going to do is kind of push it back, and again, the ultra thins are really nice and flexible, so they can just tuck right in like this. I can see you putting pressure on them like that, and they're actually, this rubber gasket is tucking nicely right behind that trim right there, like that, and you get a really good fit. And there you go. There's installing the ultra thin into the cockpit window. Just make some final adjustments with the rubber, and we are all set to go. So one thing that's important is, like, leaving a little space like this is nice, because you come up here with your finger and you can take it and start peeling the ultra thin right out pretty easy while you're flying. So it's good to leave a little space to get your finger into behind there when you put the ultra thin in with the trim. When you don't use the trim, you'll have the pull handles that you can just grab it and pull it out. So if you see a wrinkle like this in your ultra when you put it in, it's because it's just a little too long and it's hitting there. So what you're going to do is pull it out and just snip it a little bit with the scissors and put it back in, and that'll straighten it out. All right, so once you get the shade in, you're going to just clean it like he's doing there, about 6 inches from each side, where you're going to put the little button. Just clean it right there. All right, so now you peel the backing paper off, and what you're going to do is make sure the window's positioned where you want it. You might have to push it up behind the trim, just like he's doing there, and holding it with one hand. Now put the button onto the window sill, put it right onto the sill, and then press it against the shade, and hold it for about 60 seconds right there. And what's happening is that button will keep the shade from sliding down, and it holds it right in the position that you need it. So again, just hold it where you want and put the second button on, press it against there, make sure it's on the armrest so it keeps the shade from sliding down. And the adhesive will grip in about 60 seconds. It'll cure overnight, so you get about 50% of the strength when you first do it, then overnight it'll cure.